welcome to another excellent time to talk about the latest conversations in the world of sports. It is Sports Central brought to you live and exclusive to Spectrum Television with a whole lot of topical issues to talk about in the world of sports this morning from the Wimbledon that is currently up and running across different centers, both WTA and the ATPC, and we'll take a look at it as well. We'll also look at today being the start of the quarterfinal phase of the FIFA Club World Cup with European teams still locked in the tournament, about 4 teams. We'll also take a look at that as well. Transfer stories also being a conversation on the show this morning. Well, the football world have been grieving in recent times due to the sad demise of Portugal and Liverpool striker. Talk about Diogo Jota, who tragically passed away yesterday. And there have been a whole lot of conversation since yesterday up until now. We'll talk more about that on the show as well. But before we bring you up to speed with all of these topical conversations, let's first of all tell you what's trending in the exciting world of sports. Welcome once again. I am Mutabe David. Well, the conversation this morning starts from home, where Nigeria's Olajide Omotayo is set to spearhead Africa's early campaign at the 2025 WTT US Match preliminary rounds in Las Vegas as the prestigious tournament gets underway at the Allianz Arena from July 3rd to 13th. The 2019 African Games champion will make his return to the global stage in the men's singles preliminary round, where he faces wildcat entrant Victor Z of the United States on Friday, being today the 4th day of July. Despite a current world ranking of 162, Omata is expected to have the upper hand against the 777th ranked Chinese-born American. Omotayo, who now splits his base between the United States and France, is aiming to fight his way into the main draw of the $1.55 million WTT Grand Smash, the first ever to be hosted on American soil. The difficult part lies ahead, but the Nigeria star's international experience makes him one of Africa's biggest hopes in the tournament's opening phase. Away from that, Nigeria will field the largest delegation as 43 countries prepare to compete at the third African Under-18 and Under-20 Athletics Championship in Abeokuta from 16 to 20th July. Organizers have confirmed the participation of 937 athletes and officials for the 5-day event, which will see some of the continent's brightest young talents compete at the refurbished MKO Abiola Sports Arena. According to the National Sports Commission, host nation Nigeria will present 110 athletes, 60 men and 50 women, supported by 22 officials. South Africa follows closely with 100-member contingent, while Ethiopia, Kenya, and Algeria are also sending large teams. The National Sports Commission also stated that preparations are ongoing at the capital city of Ogun State, with final touches being made to logistics, accommodation, transportation, and other key areas. To the world of boxing now, where Tyson Fury said a third fight against unified heavyweight champion Alexander Usyk has been arranged for April 18, 2026 at London's Wembley Stadium. Fury made the announcement on Instagram yesterday. It comes after Turkish Alakesh, the chairman of Saudi Arabia's General Entertainment Authority and owner of Ring Magazine, said Wednesday that Fury would return in 2026. In January, Fury announced his latest retirement after several previous claims he was hanging up the gloves. Sergey Lapin, head of Team Usage and his company Ready to Fight, said while the focus is on the upcoming fight against Daniel Dubois on July 19 for the undisputed heavyweight title at Wembley, the Ukrainian would be open to a trilogy against Fury. To the world of tennis now, Marin Cilic put an end to Jack Draper's hope on home soil Thursday at Wimbledon, where he hosted the British #1 with a 6-love, 6-3, 1-6, 6-4 victory. The 36-year-old Croatian delivered a big hitting display to overwhelm the fourth-seeded Draper throughout their 2-hour and 39-minute second-round clash. Silic, who reached the Wimbledon final in 2017, has not competed at the grass court major since 2021, but is returning with conviction this week. Draper was aiming to advance to the third round at Wimbledon for the first time in his career, but the number 4 player in the ATP rankings was unable to cope with Silic's heavy hitting and dominance on serve. While Silic has twice undergone surgery on his right knee in 2023 and 2024, there has been little uncertainty over his grass court pedigree. Silic, who claimed an ATP Challenger Tour title in Nottingham 2 weeks ago, will next face Spain's Jomi Moner. Well, finally, from the world of football now, former Super Eagles captain and World Cup goalkeeper Peter Rufai has died in Lagos hospital. He was 61, and reports said he had been ill for some weeks before finally passing about 6 a.m. on Thursday. Born on August 24, 1963, Rufai represented Nigeria over the course of 17 years and played at the 1994-1998 World Cup tournaments after making his international debut in December 1981. He earned 65 caps as a composed, agile and somewhat flamboyant shortstopper, helping the Super Eagles to win the 1994 African Cup of Nations in Tunisia after finishing runners-up in 1984-1988. He was a first-choice goalkeeper at all 3 African tournaments. Rufai captained Nigeria during 1994 FIFA World Cup, the Super Eagles making their first appearance at the global tournament and retained number 1 jersey at France 98. He led Nigeria to the round of 16 on both occasions, cementing his status Rufai had run a goalkeeping academy in Nigeria and Spain. He is the 6th player from Nigeria's iconic USA 1914 to have done. The others are Uche Okafor, Thompson Oliha, Yekini, Stephen Kechi, and Wilfred, who was the number 2 goalkeeper. But that's all we have for you in Sports Wrap about this time. We'll take a very short break. When we return, we'll have an extensive conversation where all of these topical sporting stories and much more will be deliberated upon.
Broadening your horizon is what every living being not only genuinely desires, but heartily pursues and intentionally invests in. For in the gathering of men, only those whose minds are in tune with the dynamics of the past, present, and future innovations, inventions, politics, and governance are respected. We are Spectrum Television, and broadening your horizon is our obsession. Risk on your decoder now to connect Spectrum Television on the frequency 12589, symbol rate 26250. That is frequency 12589, symbol rate 26250, polarization horizontal, and join our online community at spectrumtvlive.ng. For further enquiries, please call 0704 158 5642 or 0704 54177.
Welcome to the exciting moments. We talk about the best of stories in the world of sports. It is Sports Central. And my name is Vladimir and exciting times ahead. But today's show begins with a sad note. Yesterday we had the news of Diego Jota losing his life alongside his brother Andre in Spain. Well, also yesterday we saw the Portuguese women play against the Spanish women in the Euros. Not the Portuguese women, five massive zero. This still morning, Parasat won the world of sports. And another sad story also took place in the world of sports. It was at that of a former Super Eagles goalkeeper, Peter Rafai. And we saw what happened. Peter Rafai losing his life after a protracted illness. Big concern. So it was a day of lots of death and sadness for football. But the good thing is this morning it's getting even better, and we're back as if we never left. Wimbledon also taking place. And at Wimbledon, big superstars being beaten left, right, and centre. And Jack Draper, one prospect for England, or you talk about Great Britain, knocked out at the end of the new time round. But have a good morning. Before a good morning. But what a sad reflection it is.
Well, I do not know how good the morning is. Maybe not good enough, because the football world are still very sad about the demise of Diogo Jota and the brother. Just at the time when we're thinking maybe we'll be able to heal, we had the case of
Yeah.
Peter Rufai also breaking at some points yesterday as well. Well, I do not know how to cope with this, but I think it's quite a big loss, not just for Liverpool fans, but for every footballer, sports followers who've actually followed the progress and development of Diogo Jota as a football player. And the brother played in the Portuguese League too. Maybe persons didn't really follow him as well, but I think losing young ones at the moment feels quite saddening. And I thought on the prayers with the families of Diogo Jota at this very difficult time. For Peter Rufai, an outstanding goalkeeper for the national team at the points where they were called the Green Eagles of Nigeria,
Yeah.
was when we saw his dominant force. I could still remember at the time, I know I didn't watch his early days as a footballer, but when, of course, I started following football a lot more early, someone cast my back to when we had Peter Rufai, and at the time we still had Inyema as being the national team goalkeeper, and said, whenever Peter Rufai is not in between the sticks for Nigeria, it looks like they're going to lose that particular game, irrespective of the quality of opponent they're facing. It certainly shows you how dominant and how quality he was as a goalkeeper back then. So a very big miss, big loss for Nigeria, as a matter of fact.
A very big miss, a big loss for Nigeria. As a matter of fact, to be there, said Fontina, I don't know what it is, but quite sad. I love to begin the conversation from these depths that we've seen. Quite a sad one, especially Peter of Hine. We'll talk about Diego Jota, a good reflection. But the introductory chats.
I'll just say may the souls of the departed rest in peace because we need to talk more about it. It has already said a lot. Let's just
Us to jersey number 18, and it makes sense at this us to jersey number 18, and it makes sense at this moment to really look forward to. But now we're getting to the past tense. Let's relieve the pressure What is the biggest remembrance for Diego Jota?
Well, I think his biggest remembrance will always be that last goal for Liverpool that met certain that they were going to lift their 20th league title. That goal against Everton Football Club, that was his last ever football goal for
Yeah.
Liverpool. And it's always going to be remembered every time and now and then. So I think Diogo Jota was an exemplary sportsman. In recent times, yesterday we were talking on the show about likes of Marcus Rashford, Jadon Sancho, throwing tantrums here and there. You've never heard that from Diogo Jota. He was at Liverpool. Liverpool bought Darwin Nunes. He never complained. He kept his cool, did his work on the training pitch, and came to the field of play and delivered the good. He's always scoring goals when he's not injured. So I would say
The last season it was a lot injured.
definitely. So you look at Diogo Jota, just he's a model football player. He's who you would want every football player to be like. So I would say it's always bad when you lose the good ones. Not like there's any bad one, but I would say it's just too sad when you lose people like this who are always so not controversial. Or look at his Instagram page. No, you don't see pictures of vacations and party lifestyle and all of that.
That's my vacation not being a bad thing.
No, I'm just saying.
Yeah,
I'm just saying. You look at
go
him,
ahead.
very strict to the point.
Not the
knows-
bad boy in football. There.
Exactly, knows his job and just gets to it. So it's just very sad for everyone.
Well, to be there, let's talk about the man. Everyone knew him as Dodo Mayana. Peter Rafah had a nickname for those who follow the Green Eagles so well. And I think the peak of Peter Rafah was in 1994. Everyone really talked about it when Nigeria went to the World Cup in the United States of America for the first time and even got to the round of 16. And many were hoping they could do it until Roberto Baggio Italy knocked Nigeria out in the round of 16. And I remember a commentary at that time saying, a particular commentator says, if there's any team from Africa that win the World Cup, it would be Nigeria first. They went on to win the 1996 Olympics, being the first in Africa. But the last straw was 1998 World Cup. He came on, not the Peter Rafah many people knew before then. And we had Ike Shuma and the rest of them being part of it. And the goalkeeper from Barawa and the rest of them from the 1996 Olympics, not being Joseph Dusu, not being able to feature in that one. And many, the last straw wasn't very good, but absolute legend. Many regarded Peter Rafah as the best goalkeeper Nigeria had ever seen. Well, you have to put Emmanuel Ukala also in that mix, a big goalkeeper in that ranks before Vincent Ayama and Ike Shiroma and the rest of them came on. For a moment, yeah, at your introductory stage, you said Peter Rafah, I never really watched him that much. But what do you remember of Peter?
Well, it would be about his leadership qualities because I've actually seen a few clips of Peter Rafai, of course, at his young career, especially right in the shores of the country. Started playing football in the streets of Lagos before, of course, having a stint with some MPFL club side. I think where he really made the most mark in terms of earning more money was in Portugal. Before, I think two or three teams in the Portuguese league.
Yeah.
So
And that was the peak at the time. Anyway.
absolutely,
Well, Rashidi Yakini also had a thing at Portugal.
absolutely.
Before moving to Spain.
Played the UEFA Cup. One of those teams in Portugal took them to the UEFA Cup for the first time. It certainly shows you the quality and the remarkable strength of the man, Peter Rufai. I think what's that conversation will be about the fact that I saw the NFF release a statement yesterday, and one of those statements they said they never knew he was ill. So it was quite something that came sudden to many. They didn't even know Peter Rufai was ill, and to a point of course giving up. So it's quite a sad time for Nigeria, and I think I'm quite impressed about the fact that after retirement, he didn't just stop there. Came back home, established an academy, especially for goalkeepers who are also looking to tour that part. That's something quite exemplary. And people who maybe didn't watch him definitely want to be established quality footballers and goalkeepers. And I think whether or not Peter Rufai is here, that initiative, that legacy lives on as one of the quality hands we have right in the shores of the country. Quite sad that at the age of 61, I see if he would have lived more. But it is what it is at the moment.
It could have been longer.
Absolutely. So massive legacy is left for the country to follow, especially in recent times we've had good goalkeepers who've also followed suit. One of it being Vincent Anyama. And I think Woodson will definitely still have more good goalkeepers at the national team level. Right? The Stanley Wabble.
Yeah, Stanley is good.
Yeah.
Maybe not at the level yet because he's not
Absolutely.
really done lots of exploits. He just came onto the same
Absolutely.
last Nations Cup.
Yeah.
But he came at a time when Nigeria was really struggling for a goalkeeper.
with
And it was more like a salvation.
No, I would not want to put Stanley Wabale in that mix because when you look at it, I just feel he's the best of the bunch we have at the moment. I don't watch Stanley Wabale and I go crazy for the kind of saves he makes. When you watch, I've seen clips of Dodo Mayana. My father used to play clips of the man, so I've seen saves. And I watch Vincent Ayama. I watched my 2010 World Cup. Watching my 2014 World
I
Cup.
have seen Dodo Maya also making lots of mistakes also.
I'm talking about,
1994
I'm talking
World
about
Cup
the
was
same.
similar.
I cannot. Stanley Obali has been part of the Super Eagles setup for at least 3 years now.
Hmm.
I cannot pinpoint any top quality service man that blew my mind. So let's keep Stanley Obali for now, please.
All right. And while it brings back the conversation, we've always been talking about quality goalkeepers from Nigeria over the years. This man, we're talking about Dodo Mayana and what he's brought to the table. And we're talking about the likes of Emmanuel Kala, who's been absolutely fantastic. And then we had Keshiromu, Vincent Ayama, and a Kwaibumat superstar. And even falling now, no matter how you want to look at it, Stanley Wabali is the number one goalkeeper of the Super Eagles of Nigeria. And he brought his path in that mix. Well, a sad story it is, but we have to move forward to it. We're looking forward to have more great goalkeepers like Dodo Mayana in that direction. But similarly, let's quickly talk about the talking points in other sports. Well, we hear that the Athletics Federation of Nigeria are bracing up for athletes' welfare amid the Ophili saga. Well, before I start with you now, when we talked about Ophili and what came with it, we were talking about a conversation that came in that switched cam to talking about now that the Athletics Federation are beginning to talk about welfare. It seems like good conversation to look at.
Oh, definitely a good conversation when we want to look at it because I feel we should not be losing our athletes to other countries. Look at Nigeria. In fact, the Athletic Federation of Nigeria are eligible to receive a particular stipend from Olympic Committee every particular Olympic year. I think there's another committee they receive money from as well every year. So
that brings the question what they do with
the money. Thank you very much. They use that money to enrich their pockets instead of paying athletes and trying to just. We were talking about it earlier today, and we talked about other countries, are paying for coaches for their athletes. But in Nigeria, we see our athletes going overseas and just trying to do their own thing. Chibi Musa only comes back.
The moment you get a connection to go overseas at school and be an athlete, they're done with you.
Exactly. So I just feel the AFN needs to do more. This is a good start. Let's just keep it at that. This is a good start, but it's not enough to bring the praises for them and all of that.
Just before we move away from the conversation, I do not feel it's something we should be clapping our hands because it didn't start today. Over time, over the years, we've seen Nigerian athletes switch allegiance to other countries, and we've also had.
It didn't change much.
It didn't change much afterwards. So it's not just about coming out to say there will be improvements in welfare. Or will we actually see the establishment of improvements of welfare for these athletes? I think that's why I'm quite concerned, which we'll definitely see in the coming months, how to treat most of these athletes, representing the country at the international stage. I think it's a clarion call for the FN to rise up, get up, look at these athletes. We have quality athletes, but how come when we go to international competitions, we do not see quality representation? It starts from preparation, and I think the FN was actually learned from this.
It begins from preparation. To talk about Favour Philly, the age 22-year-old sprinter, who recently set a world record in a 150 meter event at Adidas Atlanta City Games, reportedly disillusioned with the Nigerian system. It's not just Favour Philly and the rest of many people, just that they've not switched camp yet, but they're not happy with the state of things. And just as the guys talked about it, said, look, the funds are being given to the Athletics Federation. What are they doing with the funds? How are they developing the athletes? What's the place of the welfare of the athletes in this one? And that's the big question we're talking about. And now quickly, let's switch gear and get to talk about a talking point. It would be tennis, Wimbledon, taking center stage. We're talking about the 10th round of it. Some big superstars gliding over to the next round of it and talking about past McNally in Wimbledon, center court. And yesterday we saw the likes of Jack Draper being beaten by Marlon Cilic and Novak Djokovic also doing the magic, moving even further and on and on and on. Who else? Yannick Sinner also crossing over. The biggest superstars that crossed over. Well, let's start with, I'm trying to look at, I want to start from defending champion Krasikova escaping again. Well, it's getting difficult. Just so close for some of the big stars.
I think it's quite good, especially for defending champion of this competition. I could recall the first round of the Wimbledon. She also escaped. The second round, almost the same thing. And
so she's getting closer to being beaten anyway.
Maybe when we get to see her, face a top opponents. I'm even saying top opponents. How many top opponents are left in the competition?
Well, let's show a few of them anyway.
Maybe
real top opponents.
Maybe Swiatek, Arena Zabalenka. That's what we'll see. Have been tested.
And those are real top opponents. Anyway.
Absolutely. But good stuff for her to still remain even at the third round rather going to the fourth round of the competition. I want to see more from her. going even forward.
Well, the guys want to see more from her going forward. Let's switch gear and really talk about. I know the likes of Sunmex have reached Wimbledon 10th round, making history. For talking Fontina, maybe have a bite on this one now. What the history it's all about.
What the lady has put Turkey on the map before now, just like Nigeria, seeing a Nigerian reach the third round of Wimbledon, that's going to be a huge feat. So,
Yeah.
The first Turkey international to get to that particular level, she's now blazing the trail. Maybe now all the Turkish internationals would follow.
Yeah, just like we talked about Unstable doing it from an African point of view, and we even talked about it players. Dreva also had to hold off Bronzetti to reach the third round of Wimbledon, and Ben Shelton was unable to convert three match points before the play suspended at Wimbledon. Quite sad now. I think he had one more game left for it, but the play was suspended. Yeah. Not good for him. I don't know what the outcome have been, but we'll get a check and talk about it. Let's talk about the big guys. Yannick Sinner. Yannick Sinner continuing to stay flawless at Wimbledon, showing class and dominance, beating his opponent in this one. But Jack Draper had to fall to the sword of Mansilic in this one, as Alex Domino also saw this at Wimbledon. Well, today I want to talk about Jack Draper. Jack Draper seems to be the only representative of Britain we're looking forward to, especially when the game takes place in Britain, and it's always going to be a grass court competition. But he came out after this match to Mansilic and said, "Look, I don't know, grass court is not my thing." I'm quite surprising for a British player. We know Brits to be about grass court, and it was a hair upper into what Andy Murray did and Heyman, but he's not living up to the expectation.
He's not even done well in history books. He's not done well.
Yeah,
in
never crossed the third round.
Absolutely, and of course, looking at the very fact that he's also home favorite in this one, I still can't wrap my head around what happened yesterday. But he came out to see, give credits to Man Silic, a former world number 3, so he's got also experience at this level. Maybe we'll talk about the fact that he's not been here for some time, but someone who's been here over time knows what to do. A big hitting player who also took Jack Draper to the very last of it. Certainly shows you the quality of the man, Silic in this one. But I think I'm a little bit disappointed about Jack Draper because I saw the level of consistency he was building from last year up until now, winning 1,000 Masters event last year, going to the semi-final of the US Open as well, and now sitting at a career high world number 4. I mean, you expect something bigger than that. But when I look back at what happened in the first round, I don't know if you're aware, about 18 top-seeded players in this competition were knocked out already as at Tuesday.
What David is saying 18, 23.
Now as at Tuesday.
We don't know what the numbers are now.
It's more now, definitely. It's more now. So that certainly shows you that things are changing quite quickly at Wimbledon. Top-seeded players being knocked out. Or we may just eventually at the end see a new phase, going to the finals and even win it as well. I like the level of competition going on now because before now it would be about predictions. Yannick Sinner, Carlos Zacharias get the better of this one. But it's changing the narrative now, and I'm beginning to like the way it's going.
Well, it's changing the narrative. With David liking the way it's going. Funny now, one last conversation before we get to talk about boxing, because I want to talk about boxing. It would definitely be about Novak Djokovic somewhere, somehow getting a victory. A little struggle for him, but beating Dan Evans in this one. And after beating them, he came out and said, "What's a Novak Djokovic 99th game at Wimbledon?" Remember, he's won 7 trophies in this one in Manchester. Hoping to break the dog and still win a 24th Grand Slam and title. If he gets to have a medal back-to-back Wimbledon, he's finished runners-up to Carlos Alcaraz and back-to-back Wimbledon. And men are looking at after this trophy. He said a 19 win for him at the 10th round, and he kind of joked about Carlos Alcaraz and Yannick Sinner and said, put them combined, it's going to take him time to win it. Somewhat somehow, he's 38 years of age. Yannick Sinner 23 and Carlos Alcaraz at 22. But good win for the man.
Definitely good win for Novak Djokovic. In fact, there are postulations that with the level of high, profile casualties at Wimbledon, and maybe it's just a time for the man to go as far as possible. Maybe get a Grand Slam for himself. But Yannick Sinner has remained flawless, just like we talked about too. We might just see Yannick Sinner going ahead to the final. But for Novak Djokovic, I think you cannot take away from the level of experience this man has. When he comes, when you're facing Djokovic, you have to be at your very best, because without that, you are definitely going to lose. This man defeated Carlos Alcaraz last year with an injury. So it shows you that this man is good anytime, any day. When you are not prepared to face Novak Djokovic, you're definitely going to lose.
Yeah, he took something, and his doctor gave him something, and the cause of it was having stomach issues. And he said that was a miracle for him to get that victory. Last year, beat Carlos Alcaraz. That was in the Paris Olympic. But at the end of it, when you talk about Wimbledon, both years, the two last edition, Kawasaki has gotten the better of Novak Djokovic at the finals of Wimbledon. And it might not be another final where they go all the way. Well, one last story from tennis would be that world number 192, Hungary, had to save a match point again to extend Cinderella a run at Wimbledon. August Holmgren earned himself a new nickname, the King of Wimbledon comeback, before arriving in London, and the Dane had never played in a qualifiers at Wimbledon, and nor had he competed in a major main draw, but he's adding up the number. I marked the name Holmgren rather, what number 132. We'll see how far he can go in this one, because it could be the beginning of great things to come. Well, finally, another sport before we get to talk about football. The stories will be that Tyson Fury is claiming a legendary trilogy is set for April 2026 in Wembley. Well, guys, when I heard it, I followed the traction that came with it. I said yesterday, you saw the comments under the post. You begin to shock. People don't want to see this trilogy
No one
because
wants to see it.
his fought legendary twice and lost.
What are you
And what's
going
the
for
point? It seems like the guys are just looking at how to make money and
He
retire.
just wants to make money. Whenever he's beaten by Alexander Usyk, he usually retires. This is not the first time.
Yeah.
Either is it the second time.
Or whenever he cannot agree a deal to fight against
You retire.
against Anthony
So why-
Joshua,
why did
he
he-
retires.
Why did he not retire? I mean, the way I'm looking at it, Daniel Dubois would, of course, take him to the cleaners later this month. And thereafter, next year, we'll talk about Alexander Usyk. I mean, why retiring? That's a conversation.
But the main focus of a trilogy is always maybe when two fighters have one win apiece,
Yeah.
and that's when you get a trilogy. But right now, 2 wins for Alexander Usyk. What's the need of the trilogy?
Still
So
not, no.
it's just a bit ridiculous. I feel there are more deserving fighters who should get that big pause, because it's all about the big pause. When the Saudi Arabian prince is shelling out that amount of money, Tyson Fury would always get greedy.
And well, especially if the fight takes place in Wembley, and many argue and said we'd rather see Tyson Fury against Anthony Joshua and find out who the best of the Brits has been over the years. Remember, Anthony Joshua made a statement sometime and told Elizabeth and said, "Look, everyone you've beaten, have beaten them. Anyone I've lost to, you've not beaten them yet." And it come out to be true. Or maybe there could be the last two are set to retire and just fight themselves. Well, a fight that many people have been looking forward to before now, it never happened. But many people are looking forward to in Britain. Anthony Joshua against Tyson Fury, probably before that retirement is that conversation. Anyway, not Jack Draper now, listen, the U16, they said that they're focusing on fighting Daniel Dubois July 19th for the undisputed heavyweight title at Wembley. Then after that, they can have a conversation about Tyson Fury. Well, we'll leave the conversation of Tyson Fury now. When we come back from the break, it will be football stories all around the world because we don't want no trilogies. Don't go anywhere. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Sports Central. My name is Vladimir Kumutunda, having fun and show with me for company, going nowhere. And now we're talking about football stories around the world and football. Here we go. And while we've spoken about the date that took place at Super Eagles, the part that we introduced the show, and Liverpool forward Diego Jota and the brother dying in a car crash, quite sad. But we'll move ahead and get to talk about friendly games that have been taking place, talking about Nigeria's Flying Eagles are playing against a non-league side, beginning the WAFU under 20 preparation, and they're back to victory in this one. I don't know what the victory is for them in this one, but so let's move on and talk about the world of transfer because it's getting further interesting before we look at the Club World Cup. The world of transfer, Borussia Dortmund have announced Jamie Gaten's exit from the club and moving to Chelsea. I hear the price is a little bit about 48.2 million pounds thereabout, and with an add-ons of 2.5 million pounds thereabout for Chelsea. But he's joining Chelsea now Jamie Gittins from Fornitina. You've really not been a fan of the deal at some point. I remember when you talked about it, but it seems like they've gotten a fair deal in terms of the price reduction here. Still about £50 million thereabout for the player.
For Borussia Dortmund, I feel they are the reasons why we have the inflation in the price market. I
Okay.
remember back in the days when they saw Ousmane Dembele to Barcelona, they've done a lot of deals actually.
Yeah.
They're always pressing their transfer fees so high
Quite
because
brilliant.
Jeremy Gittins was not even an important player for them last season. He was just a big part player coming from the bench. I think Chelsea
But
just
got some good numbers last season.
Absolutely.
So. Yeah, he got some good numbers. Yeah.
11 goals in all competitions.
What about the assists? And that's
Six,
why
I think six or
that's why we're talking
for a
about.
winger.
So you're saying
Really
17 goal and assists for a wing. He's a winger,
in all
not an
competitions.
attacker. It's something. It's something really.
But
At the end of it, a youngster.
the youngster, I think Chelsea at the moment are also looking forward to the replacement of Michael Modric. Recall the case he has at the moment before him, Raheem Sterling, not even in the picture as we speak. So Jamie Gittins comes in very handy. Maybe struggling with the likes of Christopher Nkunku if they want to deploy him on the left side, which that's where he plays more. Well, many would look at, of course, how we acclimatize quickly at that
You
Chelsea
see him
setup.
have an impact at Chelsea.
Well,
Come in, look at the structure of the player instead of the starting lineup already. He has to break into the team. William Estavio also joining the team this season. The likes of Santos currently on the bench and the rest of them.
I think it's all about Chelsea, having a young squad. So I do not feel players that are at Chelsea currently maybe playing his position are quite bigger than him at the moment. I think the only problem
We
would
still
be
got
how.
Noni Madueke. He has
Who's
to play one
about
of
to join
them.
Arsenal.
Yeah,
Okay.
there have been reports about joining Arsenal as well. So it comes in handy, acclimatize quickly, and he plays.
Well, first of all, I just want to make something clear. My reason for not liking this particular transfer is that Chelsea right now need wingers. They don't have Mikel Mudryk, just like you talked about. Jadon Sanchez has gone back to Manchester United. So right now, the only wingers at Chelsea, Pedro Neto and Noni Madueke. And Madueke is being talked about leaving the side. So when you look at it, bringing in Bruno Gaetans, I don't like that.
Who would have you preferred going to Chelsea?
There are lots of wingers scattered around the
The
world.
top name that would
Rafa
come
Leo for one.
at that price. Surely Rafa Leo won't go for that price anyway. And that's another concern. And he's a lot younger. And that's it.
Or you look for a Premier League proven winger.
Well, Chelsea don't do proven wingers anyway. You know that already. So why is it a conversation? Now let's go to the next transfer topic. It would be Newcastle United having to make an improved offer over here. A £55 million offer for Anthony Elanga. Well, that's what I go for Manchester United rejects Anthony Elanga last season. We saw at Nottingham Forest. Funny thing, I wasn't a fanfare for it. Also, Anthony Elanga said he didn't perform well. But Newcastle thing is quite good. And there's something about Newcastle United. I remember when they went for Anthony Gordon, went for Hall, I went for what's the name, the Leicester City player.
Liverpool.
Former Leicester City player now. What's his name now? Forgotten anyway.
He's a winger.
Yeah.
Harvey
Barnes gets injured a lot. And now you're going for this, but somehow, every player they go for attempts to work out for them. One might not be the biggest superstar, but it suits into the system. Anthony Elanga, a change in career and fortune going to Newcastle, and Newcastle seems serious for him.
It is hard to believe Anthony Elanga didn't do enough last season. I mean, he was one of Nottingham Forest's best players.
Key player.
Particularly-
Sometimes, here's what I'm not to interrupt you for. When we look at these days, football seems to be all about the stats and numbers. But have you looked at the pressure that the stats is in
defensiveness? He comes
defensive
into the game,
play,
he comes
make
into
you
the
play
game,
and the rest of them.
change the game for you, and of course make those runs. I mean, he makes defenders stay on their feet all through the entire duration when he's on the pitch. I mean, you watch him against Manchester United and other club sides as well. He did very well. I think I'm also, of course, quite delighted about the
I'll have to give him some flowers before you go.
about the man's progress so far, leaving Manchester United.
Yeah.
I think at that particular point in time, it wasn't good for youngsters who were coming off the academy to Manchester United. We talk about the environment, the toxicity of Manchester United, and all of that. So he went to Nottingham. And we heard with Adams, the deal could also rise up to 60 million euros.
Yeah.
That's a whole lot of money for Nottingham Forest. A good stuff and good decision he made there.
Well,
Good
if
stuff,
you told me 2 years ago that Anthony Elanga would be being touted for almost 60 million euros, I would have disagreed with you, but
Well, because he was at Manchester United.
exactly, that's what I'm talking about.
United doesn't know how to brand players.
I'm coming from a place where I watched Nottingham Forest last season, especially towards the end of the season. They lost 7 games out of 9 games till the end of the season. That's why they crashed out of the Champions League spot and ended up playing for
But it
the
wasn't
Champions League.
Elanga's fault.
Well, I watched
no matter how you talk about
It wasn't Elanga's
no matter what we're talking about, it's
No,
not him. It's not
He's quite a good player.
It's more like going for Morgan Gibbs White and say They lost out of
No, no,
Champions League
give
place
like
last
the
season.
quality player.
It's a team. It's a
Come
team
on.
game. They
No.
were not doing well in the
Here-
last part of
here's
the,
the
of the
point.
season. Doesn't
Here-
mean he's terrible.
Here's the point. I don't know why Fun is even talking about it. Nottingham Forest season before last, a team more like
They
fighting
were not even in the
relegation.
top 10.
And the next thing they
We
are
understand.
Then
We
Europe.
understand.
Yeah.
I'm
So
just
even
saying.
if they lost the last 7, it doesn't matter. They've got to the Europe. They never fight throughout the season.
We're talking about consistency. Anthony Langa lacks that.
Oh, well, I will get to see when it gets to Newcastle United.
Before
One thing I'm
Alexander
so
Isak,
sure.
before Alexander Isak left through Sociedad to Newcastle,
Yeah.
nobody talked about him.
Well,
He was a quality player.
Well, that's
Yeah,
you say.
you
The
never see
numbers,
it after
the
that.
numbers didn't even
15
count.
goals in
He
the
didn't
season
count.
before he left.
No, it
I
wasn't.
mean,
For
how
Real
many
Sociedad.
talked of
It wasn't-
interested
it
in
wasn't up
Alexander
to that.
Isak at the time?
15 goals
No.
for Real
How
Sociedad.
many
wasn't
talked
up
of
to that.
interested at the time?
All right. Let's move on, guys. Well, the club walk-up takes in the stage. I think we should go there first. Okay, let me just touch on a few on transfer before we go. We'll talk about a club walk-up time. As far as going, Manchester United are looking forward to Ollie Watkins as a Gyökeres alternative. There's been complication regarding Victor Gyökeres at Sporting and the price tag that Sporting are placing on him and not sticking to the verbal agreement they had. Is that concerned? And at the club walk-up, today's game takes place, the quarterfinals begins, and what we're talking about, Fluminense against Al Hilal. As club walk-up as difficult for Cancelo, Simeone Inzaghi has said, as well as Neves after Jota are dead. And so put that side by side in Fontina. Simeone Inzaghi, the coach of Al Hilal, is coming out and saying, look, the likes of Cancelo and Neves, right, John Neves, they're suffering because of their teammates dead. Talking about Diogo Jota, but a big game we're looking forward to Fluminense, a Brazilian side against Al Hilal.
Well, I'm very excited for this particular game because it means that a non-European side will definitely make it to the semi-final of the Club World Cup. And who knows, maybe have a chance to go to the finals. So I'm really excited about this particular game. But for the friends of Diogo Jota who's died, very, very concerning for them. You don't expect them to play after losing such a friend. For Enzo Maresca already said that Pedro Neto asked to be excused from training, so you can understand how the circumstances are right there in camp.
Well, how the circumstances are right there in camp is that conversation. Well, a lot of games I'll get to take place afterwards. It would be talking about the likes of Palmeiras taking on Chelsea, a battle between Chelsea and the young star they have who's playing currently for Palmeiras, William Estadio. Or what are we expecting in this one?
Well, a big cracker to look forward to. Conversation has been about Brazil teams doing well. I think it will be a conversation we'll have much later tomorrow. Why they have been so solid. Almost all of them making their way to the last 16. Many have talked about weather conditions. I could also understand the fact that one of the ministers, defender, came out to say, we have this difficult temperature even in Brazil. That's why we've been able to cope.
So they're adapting.
More than the European teams.
Some people are surprised why the weather it's so hot in the United States of America. They always think it's always cold. All the time.
It's a different case.
A change of season, different times, and climate change also being a part of it. In the summer, it's always going to be different. Well, it's basically what it is because I really had somebody argue and say, how? Those things don't going to the United States and saying, oh, it's a cold weather. I don't know. But sometimes it can be hot anyway. Well, tomorrow we'll have lots of games, some taking place early hours of the morning at Palmeiras against Chelsea and Paris Saint-Germain later tomorrow. But we're going to talk about it. Paris Saint-Germain against Bayern Munich and Real Madrid against Borussia Dortmund. Well, lastly, before we get a close, it would be about Pedro Neto's call to be not available after Diogo Jota dead. So we talked about, but Real Madrid and Xabi Alonso are in agreement over the sale of Rodrigo. Well, it's been a conversation and Fon has really spoken about Rodrigo possibly leaving the side. What do you make of this, Infante?
Well, I think the man has to leave. It's clear. He has to leave because we look at Rodrigo, a very important player for a Brazil national team. And now with Carlo Ancelotti moving there, we saw lots of changes when he met
Is it because he spoke out? Because it seemed like since Kylian Mbappe, he's always going to be that victim. When Kylian Mbappe came.
Now here's the thing. Before Kylian Mbappe arrived, there were already conversations. We talked about it here. There were conversations about Rodrigo's space not being enough for the man. So why start a football club where you're not guaranteed game time? I mean, whether or not he does well, the team, the coach would also have preference, which is starting Kylian Mbappe, the likes of Vinicius Junior.
But last season, Kylian Mbappe was there under the coach Ancelotti. Well, he was still playing.
He accommodated him on the right flank. Has Xabi Alonso done same? It's no. The conversation is not at the moment. So
it brings the next conversation. Where is he going to? Arsenal Football Club, if possible?
Well, it could also be a possible destination, but I'm not actually sticking for Arsenal. Just go get regular game time. You can establish yourself elsewhere.
It can become a smaller club depending on where you're going to. You become a smaller player at the end of it. Well, we've seen it happen all the time. A player moves from a big club and goes to a smaller club, and guess what? End of story for his career. We can only wish Rodrigo Gals the best of it if he gets to leave Real Madrid. If talks happen, it gets to change. I still will be fancied for him to be at a Real Madrid is that conversation. Okay, we draw the curtain in today's edition of Sports Central. Thank you for being a part of it. My name is Vladimir Kimutueda Fontina, being the matchman for me, doing the magic for me. Thank you, guys.
Always a pleasure to be
I
here.
saw something on the social media space about the William brother wanting a new contract and letting go back despite the interest of Barca. So
So,
we're looking forward to
Barca have not been able to guarantee him
Absolutely.
registration. It always going to happen. But yeah, register with time and do the magic. We bounce. Thank you for being a part of it. What a week it's been.